Hi everyone, this is Mari Craig, and you're listening to the Small Steps to Wellness show, a podcast where we discuss how we can achieve more wellness in our lives one small step at a time. For the past 6 odd years, I've taken a special interest in nutrition and I've changed the diet of my family on its head. But as I've dived deeper into the world of nutrition, I have learned that health is so much more than just what we put on our plate. This is why on this podcast we will be talking nutrition, mental health, being in alignment, holistic health care, self care, raising children, and more. We will also be hearing stories of women's journeys to overcome trauma and what it has taught them on the way. When we share our stories, we realize we are not alone and that things can change for the better. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey as I explore what health and wellness truly encompass. If you like what you're hearing, please consider rating the show with a 5-star rating and sharing it with your friends. It really makes a big difference. Now, on with today's show.
Hello and welcome to the Small Steps to Wellness show with me, your host, Mari Craig, where we discuss how we can achieve more wellness in our lives, one small step at a time. It's been absolutely ages. There's a couple of reasons for that. I have a very young baby who's not too keen on sleeping. And I guess as a result, too, I haven't really known or even felt like doing recordings because it has to feel inspired when I do so. But I've had quite a lot of thinking time in between feeding and changing nappies, and I want to start off now having some more conversations. We've had some conversations already on this show, but there's been also a lot of sort of experts on telling me or teaching me about different things. But now I want to have more conversations that will hopefully inspire you, make you maybe think about things in a different way. That's my hope anyway. So first out today, I have my good friend Amy Durston on. Amy is a reflexologist, former childminder and former primary school teacher, and all-around fantastic person who I always go to for any parenting advice or literacy advice or anything like that. she's always got not necessarily she does have the answer for me, but she will always phrase it as a question to really make me think. So yeah, how's that for introduction, Amy?
I'm trying not to laugh out loud when you said that, but yeah, that's what friends are for, though, right?
yeah, absolutely. So she's been on the other side, Amy, of this whole "he won't sleep, what am I gonna do?"
Or it's bringing back a lot of memories every time you message me, so
Yeah,
if I can help, then I will.
fantastic, thank you so much. But then they go to bed fine in the evening, so here we are recording
Yeah, fingers crossed.
together. And I messaged you a while back and said I would like to have you on because both of us have kind of gone through a bit of a journey, or I guess we're on a journey, aren't we, all of us? So I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of what's in our wellness toolkits, where we've come from, with regards to what health used to look like for us, or how we approach illness and things like that, and where we are now. So, because we're the same age, we've got now, I've caught up with you, we've got the same amount of children, we've got a pet each, and so, but things haven't always been so, I guess, holistic for us, the way we look at health. So where were you like 10 years ago, as as opposed to where you are now, or what's your sort of background when it comes to health?
Oh gosh, big question. It makes me have to think back because it feels like a long time ago now. So yeah, you're right. I did used to be a primary school teacher, and I was that just busy young woman, no children, no dependents, just my commitment was to my work, really. And I worked full time and then got pregnant and settled down a little bit. And that's when I realized that, the balance was tipping a little bit. So I loved my work, but I also loved being with my baby. And I was like, oh gosh, this is what they mean when, you come back from maternity leave and they're all asking you, how are you doing? And that's when I started to kind of question my, I guess, priorities when it comes to work. And at this point, health wasn't a priority. It was just, if I got ill, I'd just take some paracetamol or, whatever the doctor would prescribe, and then just get on with it, just and I didn't think I got ill that often, so it didn't really seem to be much of a thing to think about, to be honest. But then obviously when you've got a baby and, you know, a growing family, I now have 3, you know, the shift did start to change, and I realized that I didn't really want to be spending all my time in the school where I was working and helping other people's children learn to read. I wanted to be spending more time with my children. And then I was introduced to a concept or an opportunity which I discovered was a way that could help me supplement some of my teaching income. And that was through working with a health company. And it actually helped me reduce my teaching hours down to part-time. So I was very grateful when that was offered to me. And because it was with a health company, I just started to learn a bit more about health, and I started to make connections between what was going on with me. Even though I say I wasn't unwell, I actually was. I was really suffering quite badly, but I just kind of ignored it, thinking it was just my normal. I had really quite chronic IBS and was really just not well, I guess, when it comes to the gut health. But I just didn't realize it at the time. So anyway, by working with this company, I started to realize that a lot of the symptoms I was experiencing was a lot to do with my lifestyle and what I was eating, or perhaps what I wasn't eating, and just, you know, not getting a good balance. So I started to lean into that health side of things, and I'm a bit of an investigator. I like to learn stuff. I always, if I learn something new, I want to kind of get to the bottom of it and learn as much of it about it as possible. So
Can
I
I
kind of
interject here that this is your human design as well, isn't it?
Oh yes, the number 1 line. Yes, I'm a 1/3 projector, and yeah, so that investigative side of me kind of really shone through there, and I started to become quite passionate actually about my health, because my health started changing, and I didn't realize how much it could change. You know, to go from this really fatigued mum who was struggling postnatally as well, to being able to have suddenly quite a lot more energy just by changing a couple of things to do with my diet and supplementing certain areas. It all just helped me get a better balance.
It's so interesting what you're saying there. I'm just going to interject here because, you know, you didn't realize. I think there's so many. Do you not think sometimes, and we're both projectors, right? And we're supposed to wait for the invitation, and we're not just supposed to go out there and go, I know what you need, even though we can see it so bloody clearly, right? It's so interesting how you thought that this was just normal, something you had to deal with. And when I've been poorly in the past, I've never, and like, I'm a well-educated woman. Why didn't I kind of realize that what I put into my body, what I fuel myself with, not just nutritionally, but everything, that you know, that it plays a part. And you see all these people now just thinking that it's normal to go around feeling bloated, it's normal to go around feeling fatigued, it's normal to go around with a headache or insomnia or all of these things. It's not normal. It might be common, but it's not normal. Isn't it? Like, it's an epiphany now. I mean, I'm so sleep deprived. Actually, I do think I sleep a bit more than I think I do, but I was sleep deprived, and still I feel much better than I did when I had the 2 kids and no dog, because I know I have the tools.
Exactly. And you until you put the 2 together, it's sometimes just a big fog. That's how I can describe it. You know, you're wandering around not really realizing. And I have to say, like, it's not the kind of thing that you'd read, or not the thing that I would read in a magazine or a newspaper. You know, this is, you know, if you're experiencing these kinds of things in your life, you know, or maybe I wasn't reading the right magazines, but it just didn't really seem to be the focus of what was going on in society at that time in my life. So yeah, I think once you put the 2 together and you think, oh my gosh, that really does make a difference. If I can just, you know, for example, simply increase my water intake, like, oh my God, what a difference that makes. And sometimes it doesn't need to be drastic measures. It can just be a couple of tweaks here and there. And that's really what happened with me, is my health started to change for the better, and I was thriving off it. And I thought, wow, you know, if I can change around my health, I know so many other mums that could do that too. I'd love to share that with them, you know. So I would start talking to people about it, and it just became much more of in the forefront of my mind rather than the teaching side of things. Anyway, I ended up getting made redundant after a couple of years of me working part-time, because I was an intervention teacher. I wasn't a classroom teacher at this point. So I ended up leaving teaching because my heart just wasn't in it to stay in the classroom. And someone suggested to me, they said, Amy, you can still teach. You could become a childminder. You've got a little baby. How about you just change to a different environment and still teach? I thought, wow, what a good idea. So that opportunity kind of sort of landed in my lap in a way, because someone just popped the idea into my head. Someone plants a seed and you think, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. So I just did the training, became a childminder, and for the temporary time, it wasn't planned to be long term, but for the time that my youngest was a baby and not going to school, I really enjoyed that quality time with my family, because I was looking after my youngest and being able to take my other two to school, and it was almost like that's what I was wanting all the time. I really wanted to get that better balance, so it was a bit of a blessing, really, I think.
Yeah, probably was. And it's interesting because I guess, I don't know how you grew up. So I grew up in Norway, where I think we kind of, well, I think we feel like we were moving a bit backwards there again as well. But it was never a question in my mind that I was going to have children, and then at the age of 1, they were going to go into a nursery, and then was going to go back to work. Obviously, moving to England, and childcare costs the way they are, this didn't exactly work out the way I thought it was going to work out. But that was always kind of like, this is what you do, end of. And then you realize maybe that's not ideal for anyone. And I was already having to question my kind of choices, or what I thought was what I wanted back then. And I don't think I could be a childminder, but I absolutely see that must have been an amazing opportunity for you to be able to do that. Because I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of health toolkit, as it were. Like, I said to you, I mean, what's in your health toolbox? And surely it has to be a massive toolbox that also has to fit like quality time, not just food and exercise and sleep, right?
Yeah.
But all the things in between that we do, right?
Yeah, it's not just about food and drink, 100%. It's about, getting that balance of work and family life as well. And I'm sure a lot of mums out there, or any parent actually, would agree with what you were just saying about how, having to go back to work isn't always the best option, whether it's financial or, emotional as well. Because like for me, things shifted and work just wasn't, my priority anymore. And having had that experience of being able to be at home with the kids and also still work by childminding, I mean, you can do it in other ways, it really kind of helped me focus on my kids and also their health, because my 2 eldest children have allergies, and my second child had so many allergies when she was born. Thankfully, she's grown out and managed to improve her gut health around, so she's only got two allergies left, but the same as her older sister. And yeah, it just really helped me have time with them, so I could be responsible for making their lunches and dinners and stuff like that, so I could just sort of be around more, and at the same time also teaching them from an early age that it's all about when I guess the link between our happiness is also is linked to what we do, and which includes what we eat and what we drink and what we don't eat and what we don't drink, and how much we move and how much time we're looking at a screen, and doing things that we enjoy and getting out and going out into nature. But then also on the emotional side of things, talking about how to identify our thoughts and feelings and how to navigate through them. And I think if I was working full time as a teacher, I probably wouldn't have had as many opportunities to sort of be present with my kids, to discuss stuff like that at such a young age. So I'm really grateful that I was able to do that. And because of my background and kind of geeking out on the health side of things, it really highlighted to me that when they were ill, it wasn't a case of, oh, right, let's call the doctor and, get some antibiotics straight away. There was not that I'm knocking antibiotics at all. I was raised by a very conventional medicine, GP who, was very much for that, and it does have its place. But I would sort of seek out other alternative methods before resorting to things like that, because we now know so much more about the effects that things like antibiotics can have on, for example, our gut health. So it's just a massive shift, I guess, from when I was a kid to to having children now, and that toolbox of what do I do when I get ill, or what do I do when my kids get ill, is very different now. And I think you probably agree, because you had a different kind of raised childhood in terms of health.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The amount of painkillers I've popped in my life is kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you. So yeah, both my parents are sort of health educated, and my dad was a pharmaceutical rep, and it's kind of making me laugh now, considering that I'm also working with the same company that you work with, because you actually introduced me to it, and it's all about practicing prevention. And I suffered from a lot of headaches when I was younger, and I think I took paracetamol probably every other day or so. And I learned from a very young age that you take one ibuprofen and one paracetamol, because one works fast and one works long. And it's just
that makes so many bells. My gosh, brings me back. Yep.
Yeah. So and it's kind of, if my dad were around now, he passed many years ago, but it would have been a very interesting conversation. But he always respected my opinion, so it would have been very interesting to talk to him about to where I am now compared to where I was, because I had no idea. And it's interesting. So my eldest started her life on antibiotics, which were very necessary at the time because of her lungs. And I had no idea about probiotics or anything that I could do. Whereas my youngest now, who's only 7 months, he's had 1 course of antibiotics, and I've had 6 since he was born. I mean, it is ridiculous, and it was all necessary, unfortunately. But the knowledge that I have of what to do after and during compared to 10 years ago, I mean, it's astounding. So I've got different strains of probiotics for me, for him. We're eating all our sauerkrauts and drinking our kombuchas and eating our prebiotic foods, and obviously stuffing our faces with fruits and vegetables and all our supplements. And it's just, in my toolbox now is confidence to know what to do.
Yeah.
And obviously knowledge, and also the not just the knowledge of what to do, but also the knowledge that I have power to not just sit and wait for stuff to happen to me, but I can take matters into my own hands.
Absolutely.
That is very, very different from the first 2 kids. So even though I tend to say we don't have between us a single good gut bacteria to fight with, I'm sure we have a few now, but we know how to get them back.
It's empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so empowering. Yeah,
because then you're not just relying on one pill or one prescription, and that empowerment, it allows you to, I guess this is what you call complementary health, isn't it? You complement whatever's been prescribed to you that has to be necessary in order to help whatever it is that you need to get rid of in terms of infection. And if you can, I guess, support the body in a way that helps you recover and recuperate and repair more quickly, then you're going to do that. And I guess unless you know how, or you're not going to have that opportunity to get better and really bolster the immune system. So I think it's great that we've both been able to have that opportunity to learn and share with people. And that's really what I do now as a reflexologist. I mean, I've come a long way with my knowledge as well, but in my training, it was all about, the complementary health benefits of reflexology. It's not, you don't just go and have some reflexology. You have reflexology alongside whatever else you're, being asked to do from your consultant or doctor. So
yeah, that's a good point as well. That it's alongside other things. Doesn't it frustrate you though sometimes that you have all of these things and you want to share them with people, and that we're sat in a bit of a gold mine when it comes to the products we work with, and you just want to shake people up and go, don't you understand? And they're not receptive.
Of course. I think as you get older and wiser, you start to realize that everyone's responsible for themselves, and you can't, what's the phrase? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's your job, as you know, with what you do, Mari. You know, you share the information and people will do with it what they will. And even though you know, when you talk to someone that you know exactly what it is that they need because they've explained their symptoms, and you can, with your knowledge and experience, you can say, well, I would definitely recommend trying this, this and this. Whether they go off to do that and do it is completely up to them. And I guess you just have to leave it with them and trust that they will make those decisions. And sometimes it's all about timing as well, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think so. But yeah, no, I think you're right. But listen, tell me more about reflexology. What's that all about? I mean, I've had a couple of reasons from you, a couple of reasons from other people, and it's pretty nice.
It's so nice. It's so relaxing. It's crazy. If anyone that's listening has had reflexology, they know what we're talking about here, because it's designed to induce a really deep state of relaxation. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the ultimate aim for me. My intention is to induce a really deep state of relaxation by stimulating the different points on your feet, or the face, or the hands, actually, because there are reflex points on, and even the ears, actually. So you can have facial reflexology if you don't like people touching your feet. But it's just a bigger surface area on the feet than the hands, for example. So that's where most people have it. So, for example, if you massage the padding underneath your big toe, you're actually opening up neural pathways that are connected to the head and the brain. So if you suffer from headaches, then that's a great one. I mean, if you don't want to reach your big toe, you can just reach for your thumb, because your thumb is also has the same reflex points for the head and the brain. Or the sides of the toes, or the sides of the fingers, they correspond with the sinuses, which is another great one that you can stimulate yourself. You can just massage around the side of the fingers, or if you are sitting on the sofa and you can cross your legs, the sides of the toes. And if you're suffering with congestion, if you've had a bit of a cold, or you suffer with like sinusitis or hay fever kind of stuff, then that's a great one, because it will just tell that area of the body to relax and achieve a better balance. It's just a really versatile treatment. I mean, I've already given 2 examples, but it can pretty much help support any health condition, even chronic back pain, for example. I mean, no reflexologist is going to say that they're going to cure you of anything, but what they will say is that they will support your symptoms and aim to reduce the incidence of them. And the reason for that really isn't because we're not physically touching your back, for example, if it's back pain, but it's because whenever we experience any kind of like physical or even emotional discomfort, actually, just it causes us to feel a certain level of stress. And when I use the word stress, I kind of mean it in a very general way, because everyone experiences it in different ways and at different levels. 2 people would respond very differently to the same thing, for example. But the way reflexology works is it can help support the nervous system, and that plays a massive part in how you feel when you're stressed. And I like to explain it to my clients like, imagine you're in the jungle and you're injured and you're being chased by a tiger. So your body's nervous system is on like red alert, survival mode. You've got to fight this tiger or you've got to run away. Yeah, fight or flight. And only when you're safe can your body fully attend to that injury that you've got. Because up until then, there was a more important thing to do, i.e. survive. Now, in today's society, where it's work, busy, rush, it's really easy for the body to feel like it's in a chronic state of fight or flight, even though we're not. And if you're unwell and you're dealing with some kind of health condition or an injury, if you've broken something, your body won't prioritize that healing until it feels safe, or it will take longer to heal if you're in that state of stress. So that's where like holistic treatments like reflexology, acupuncture, massage, that's where they can play a really helpful part in helping your body relax. Because if you allow yourself time to relax and let your body switch from fight or flight to rest and repair, the parasympathetic nervous system, it will be able to heal. And our bodies are actually really good at self-healing. We just don't always give it the right conditions to feel safe enough to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you see me sitting here nodding. It's so true. And it's like well, I'm not sure I can compare it exactly, but in terms of pains, I still remember now, my last birth, and instead of euphoria after, so probably a lot of adrenaline, so you didn't feel anything, and then as that wears down a little bit and you're calming down, all of a sudden you realize, oh, bit achy,
and then you feel it.
Yeah, exactly. So you're relaxing, or maybe that's also why on the weekends we tend to get poorly, because we're finally able to relax after a long weekend, after a long week.
Oh yeah, and all my teacher friends, that if any teachers that are listening will know that as soon as it's the school holidays, you come down with something, because the body's been just fighting to survive until it could really stop and properly rest, and then it can repair, and that's when it all sort of comes out. I mean, you mentioned pregnancy. Reflexology is wonderful throughout pregnancies. It definitely helped me relax through all of my pregnancies, and it just helps to helps to keep your systems balanced, because we've got obviously all different systems within the body: cardiovascular system, the central nervous system, the digestive system, and one can impact the other. So if you can balance one, it can help connect to the other and balance that one. And you may find that if you've had an issue with headaches, that might be actually linked to something going on in your digestive system. If you can support your digestive system, you may find that the headaches go. It's all linked. But it is, for me, all down to reducing the stress around that sort of health condition. But I actually used reflexology to help me prepare my body for labor. I didn't need it for my first child, because she came early, but for my second and third children, I actually had specific reflex points kind of really hammered in order to, I guess, spark the body, I guess, as a way to explain it, to let the body know that it's okay to get going now. And my youngest was a week overdue, and I was very ready for him to come out. He was my heaviest child as well, so I was glad that he came out when he did. Otherwise, he'd probably still be just chilling in there as long as he wanted. But yeah, it's a wonderful treatment that can pretty much help any kind of health condition. And if you have never tried it before, anyone that's listening, I would definitely look up via the Association of Reflexologists website. I'd say always go with a registered reflexologist who is signed up with the Association of Reflexologists, because then that they've done the training with an accredited provider.
So maybe we can put that in the show notes.
Absolutely. So, there's a link that I can share it, and then you can find local reflexologists in your area. So,
fantastic. No, it is a lovely thing. I had it as well before my third labor. I was induced, but it was still I very much feeling it was the most empowered I've actually felt ever. The birth, which is interesting because it was the most medicalized one yet, but still it was all my own choice and my own decision, and I felt very empowered. But it was really, really nice and relaxing having that beforehand. But you know what, this is definitely in my toolkit now, and I'm assuming it's in your toolkit too. Absolutely. So but this is something that I think probably just a few years ago I would have poo-pooed on, and I don't know.
Definitely.
I think I've certainly grown up now, realizing there is so much I don't know. And I wonder if it comes a little bit from confidence as well. Whereas when I was younger, I was very sort of sure of a lot of things, which I actually think is down to insecurity rather than anything else. And I think also we're so colored by what our parents believe, aren't we? That we kind of take on their attitude and their opinions sometimes, and then we grow up and we realize, actually,
oh gosh, I 100% agree. Well, you believe your parents, and what your parents tell you is supposed to be the right thing to do, or the right way to think, and your belief systems are formed a majority from your parents, right? And the way you've been brought up. And I'm the same. I had my parents played and still play a big part in the decisions that I make, and I, like you, have learned so much. But there's a kind of point in your life where you suddenly think, actually, maybe not everything they say is correct, and that they're only giving you their advice and their opinions based on what they've experienced and what they've learned and what they believe to be true. Doesn't necessarily it's going to fit with what we do. But like you have come across so many things that I have thought, wow, if I hadn't learned about that, my life would be very different right now, especially when it comes to health. You know, I wouldn't automatically be calling up the doctor if, you know, if I was getting ill, like I explained before. And yeah, I think, and that's something that I want to pass on to my kids. It's like, just because I tell you this is the right thing to do, perhaps go and find out if that's true for you as well, you know, especially as they get older, and you can sort of have those sorts of conversations that, like, well, I might believe that, but do you?
Yes, exactly. Or it's like, what do you think? I get these questions from my children a lot, like, what should I do? I said, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? And they're like, well, I don't know. I said, well, how about if, you know, and then you kind of go question it, because I think, I mean, I think sort of I wonder if our sort of health toolkit or toolbox, or whatever we want to call it, wellness toolbox. Let's find a good name for it for the show notes, eh? I wonder if that is starting to look a bit more. Is it retro? A little bit? Are we going back to what we used to do a couple of generations ago? Maybe that's what it is.
I think you could be right. I mean, I always go with the pillars of health. That's what I always try and think back to. If I'm like, what's missing here? You know, what's going on? Why am I not feeling right? You know, yeah, I'm drinking lots of water. You know, oh, hang on, I haven't really been eating that well. So maybe that pillar probably could be bolstered a bit. You know, I'm not getting much sleep, actually. Yeah, my kid woke up twice in the night having a nightmare or something, you know. Oh, okay, that might.
I'd love to be woken up only twice in the night.
Sorry, rubbing it in there. And I just remember those pillars of health. So I think hydration, I think whole foods, you know, not processed, so lots of whole foods, especially plant-based. I think exercise, am I getting enough movement? Because that does have a massive impact on me personally. Some people don't need very much, others need more. Sleep. But then, like you said as well, I think mindfulness and that kind of spiritual connectedness as well, for me, has been something that's played a part in the last, I'd say, 10 years or so, for helping me emotionally and with my mental well-being, because I think a lot of that are physical manifestations of illness. A lot of them are connected to our emotional health.
Yeah.
And sometimes our kind of lack of connectedness to the world, to the universe, or however you want to see it, I think that can really impact our physical health. And I've done some training recently, you know about this, the holosonic sound therapy.
Another thing I would have poo-pooed.
Yes, I mean, it's something I've only recently discovered. I'd never even heard of it, but as soon as I discovered what it was, did my little background check and my investigations, I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And this needs to, you know, be spoken about more, because it really addresses, if you've ever heard of sound therapy, it really addresses your health on an energetic level. Yeah, it's all about energy. So that would definitely be in my toolbox for sure, now that I've learned about it. I mean, it's becoming more and more, I guess, I don't want to say trendy, because I don't think it is trendy, but people are starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, if we aren't connected and grounded with the earth and, you know, Mother Nature and all that kind of stuff that some people would call quite hippie, that if you're not really connected to that, you may well find that physically things just aren't quite right. You know, and if you kind of feel out of sorts, or something's just, you can't really put your finger on it, you're a bit out of alignment with everything that's going on, or you're walking around in a bit of a haze, that kind of thing. To me, especially when I have clients who describe that's how they're feeling, there's nothing really that they can put their finger on. I do ask them if they'd like some sound therapy, using the tuning forks that I use, because it's a wonderful way to cleanse the aura or the biofield of energy, for those scientists out there, that's around the body. And you've had to experience this, haven't you? You've had it.
Yeah, my eldest daughter has as well.
Yeah, and it's fascinating stuff. I mean, anyone who's open-minded enough to give it a try, look up sound therapy and holosonic sound therapy. Again, let's put that one in the notes. And it really helps to kind of realign the energy centers, also known as chakras, along the middle of the body. And it just can help identify any areas. I won't go into it too much, but it just identifies areas of, I guess, misalignment or
dissonance, or
dissonance, and just kind of blocked energies that need to be released or removed and balanced again.
It's quite spectacular. I mean, I again was super skeptical, but then I went to see somebody, your teacher, and because I trust him, I was like, yeah, gonna go for it. And it was this wasn't the first time that I went, but a few times after, when I had lots of mastitis, this hence all the antibiotics. I've had lots of mastitis and then some this time around. And when he was still using the tuning fork and got to the side where it was really bad, the sound in those tuning forks, I've never heard a more horrible sound.
Oh wow.
Ever. And to me, to an untrained ear, I knew that wasn't a good sound. That wasn't right. So, and I can't explain it. But I just heard that's not right.
Yeah. And then using the tuning forks, he was able to attend to the area of where the energy was out of alignment, and he helped again complement.
Yes, because other things needed to be done there because there was so much stuff going on. But it will be really interesting when I go again just to see how things are. But it's just so fascinating that it was almost like a diagnostical tool kind of thing, because he didn't know, and he got to that area and it was like this screeching sound like you wouldn't believe. You know, I was like, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but you can actually find out whether the trauma, I say, like in inverted commas, the trauma that's happened that's causing the energy to be like the way it is, you can actually diagnose whether it's something that's happened from the past or something that's worrying you about the future, you know. So that, it is really quite fascinating when you look into it. So anyone who is an open skeptic, feel free to Google that one. And I was going to talk about, you mentioned something about the toolkit as well, and going back to those pillars of health. When I'm unwell, and right now, I don't know, I mean, if you've never heard me speak on Mari's podcast before, my voice isn't normally this low. I've actually got a bit of a sore throat. And I've just probably thinking back, because this is what I do, I think, what's going on with me? Because I'm not normally unwell. I've just been at home for 2 weeks with 3 kids for the school holidays, and this is what happens when your energy is spent wholly on your kids. And I mean, I love family time, don't get me wrong, but as soon as they go back to school, a bit like what we were saying earlier, and then now I've got a sore throat. So I need to book in a reflexology session for me, just to give myself a bit of self-care time and, give my body that opportunity to relax and then heal. But I'm not going to be able to do that every day. So there are other things that I do, including resting where I can. Obviously, when the kids go back to school, it is a bit easier to do that. But even if you're listening and you work full time, you're like, well, I don't have time to rest. Just trying to go to bed half an hour earlier, that extra half an hour can make a big difference. I actually didn't do any exercise for 2 days when I normally work out religiously 5 days a week in the morning. That's my kind of me time. But for 2 days I purposefully didn't, because I know that doing especially high intensity workouts or very kind of lifting quite heavy weights can impact the immune system and weaken it, just temporarily. So I decided to cut that out just for 2 days and do kind of more gentle stretching and just walking. But I also thought, okay, well, I could also deal with my diet quite easily. So I just increased the amount of vegetables that I was eating. I reduced the meat that I was eating, just to get just a slightly more a balanced tip more towards the vegetables, just to get that antioxidant and vitamin effect. The supplements that I take, that you mentioned earlier, from the health company that we work with, I doubled up my daily dosage, which I generally do when I'm starting to feel run down or unwell. And just increased my fluids as well, I suppose. And just, I guess, when you just sit down and reflect on things, it just gives you a little bit of a moment, I guess, to be quite mindful and just slow down a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, your body's working, it's doing its job, right?
It is, yeah.
So I would do exactly the same things as you. I'll probably also make up some sort of ginger and honey and lemon shot.
I will be doing that tomorrow morning.
It all up.
Yeah.
Just some good manuka honey if you've got that, and because ginger is also anti-inflammatory. Garlic, same. If you get a whole pineapple, the inner core of that's got something called bromelain in it, which is
pineapple.
also
Yes.
got some good things going for it. But it's good to know that we don't just have to sit and wait for things to happen. We can actually do something. And I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and we need to round off now, but and she'd had some health issues, and she said she was so annoyed because she'd been to the doctor and they kind of just want to give you medication, but then somebody else, another health professional, that said, have you ever had any issues with X, Y, and Z? And she's like, yes. And like, that's probably what's causing all these other things to happen. And she was so annoyed, like, you go to the doctor, and I mean, this is not the case for all doctors, so please don't feel like I'm just, bashing them all. But you tend to, I guess, because of the time limits they have as well, you tend to get very sort of, here's this steroid cream, or here's these antibiotics, or no, there's nothing we can do, or take a painkiller, or very simple things that kind of just mask symptoms. They don't actually go to the root cause or whatever is going on. So that's the other thing as well, and that's why I just love having a toolbox that has got some alternatives in there, because I feel like I can actually take matters into my own hands, and I can play a part in my own recovery.
Definitely. And I see that with my clients and with my reflexology clients so much. I always do quite a detailed consultation before and find out about their lifestyle. And sometimes they just filling out the form is enough for the client to go, oh, wow, I hadn't really thought of it like that. For example, one of the questions I ask is, how does stress manifest in you? Because like I said at the beginning, everyone experiences it differently. And so for some people it'll be headaches, others it'll be stomach aches, others it'll be rashes, others, just all sorts of different things. And then they start to realize, like, oh, so when I experience that must be because I'm stressed, and what's causing that? And then they start to realize that, oh no, I don't really eat that many fruit and veg per day. No, thinking about it, I haven't had any yet today, or I drink a lot of coffee, but not so much water. And it all starts to come together. And I think having a toolbox or a toolkit of things that you can just do daily can be really empowering.
Yeah. And if you don't know where to start with these things, that's where kind of nutrition coaches or health coaches can also help when it comes to the food side of things, and just like pinpoint, where are you with XYZ and where can you go from here? And I think just the way things are going now in society, and I just read like headlines like, had to wait so and so long for an ambulance, and I'm thinking,
oh gosh,
I'm not dealing with that. I want to do as much as I can for myself,
not get to that point.
I know that kind of, I've done what I can, let's put it that way.
And if you've got that empowerment and you've got that knowledge, then you can say you've done what you could, and not kind of behave like the victim of, well, this is just the way it is. And that's how I used to think.
Oh, me too, massively so.
So it's, I think if you know that you've done what you can, and you've got the knowledge to apply everything that you can, then that's the best you can do. And I mean, we're not super women all the time, are we, Maury?
No, most of the time, but no, but you know what? I think also that makes for a healthier person. Somebody who's like, I actually am taking, what is my coach say, radical responsibility for my life. And it means I'm not going to sit here and go, well, poor me, because everything's happening to me. You're allowed to feel like things are a bit shit sometimes. That is absolutely allowed. But also just know this too shall pass. I have the tools. I know who to call on, or what to do and what not to do. And if I don't know, I know that I can ask, and all of these things. And I think just knowing that it's kind of scary that you have to take responsibility, but it's also empowering that it's down to me what's going to happen. I think that makes for a healthier person to, from just knowing that.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Listen, thank you for coming on and chatting a little bit about what you kind of focus on when it comes to health. I think we're quite similar. When it comes to this, we tend to focus on a lot of the same stuff. Maybe we should actually write a couple of notes in the show notes as well. I mean, just share, and if people want to talk to us more about what we do, then they can find us mostly on Instagram, I reckon. So yeah. Thanks so much. If there's anything we've forgotten, we're going to have to jump on again, don't we?
I'm sure we'll think of something.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
You've been listening to the Small Steps to Wellness show with Mari Craig. I am passionate about helping mums get their energy back through simple nutritional changes, because we know that if mummy is happy, the family's happy. If you would like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram under @smallstepstowellness, or visit my website smallstepstowellness.info. Speak to you soon.